Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi. And before we begin with today's headlines from the past, I would like to issue once again an apology for the delay of this episode. For because of the re-recording of the previous episode, this episode's filming was also affected. Nevertheless, today's episode will be broadcast on this day, the 22nd of November, alongside today's respective broadcast of the 22nd of November. So, three episodes of Historian Radio's Echoes of the News shall be broadcast on the same day. We apologize for this issue and ensure that this issue will not occur again. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the channel follows a vintage format, we must require and we must rely on modern technology, which often fails us. Nevertheless, without much further ado, let us make a start with headlines of the day from the past. On this day, the 21st of November, in 1783, man's first free flight was made by Jean de Rossier and the Marquis d'Arland in the Montgolfier brothers' hot air balloon, in which they rose 500 feet above Paris and after 25 minutes landed a few miles south of Paris. Truly an interesting day, and, well, not just interesting, a significant day in the history of aviation and the development of aviation technology. The Montgolfier brothers' balloon has gone down in history as one of the earliest prototypes of the aircraft. Moving forward, on this day, on the subject of scientific advancement, in 1831, Michael Faraday read his first series of papers at the Royal Society in London on experimental research into electricity. Faraday's work would set the groundwork for scientists like Edison, Tesla, and several others in the development and later on usage of electricity. Truly, this would be an enlightening moment in the history of scientific technology. Moving forward, on this day in 1934, the first performance in New York of Cole Porter's Anything Goes was, well, it occurred. It is one of the most iconic tracks in the history of jazz and has also been used in one of the Indiana Jones movies, particularly so the Temple of Doom, I believe, in which the song Anything Goes is in the opening sequence of the film. I apologize, it took me some time to remember, despite the fact that the Indiana Jones film series is one of my personal favorites, and I highly recommend it. And on that note, we conclude today's headlines of the day. And now we move on to the next segment of our show where we recount the famous births and deaths of famous figures from the 19th and 20th centuries and sometimes earlier. Born on this day in 1694 was Voltaire, French philosopher and satirist who was a crusader against tyranny and bigotry. He is best remembered for his written works, particularly so Candide. Truly, he remains to be one of the most interesting, to say the least, characters in the history of French philosophy. He would be born on this day, the 21st of November, 1694. And on this day, alongside him, in 1904, Coleman Hawkins, US virtuoso tenor saxophonist with Fletcher Henderson's orchestra, who was the main influence in raising the saxophone to its current position of prominence in the field of jazz, was born on this day. We shall forever be grateful to his contributions in bringing the saxophone in as a mainstream musical instrument. And unfortunately, on this day, in 1913, Prince Keiki Tokugawa, the last of the shoguns whose family re-established the shogunate in the 16th century, died on this day in 1913, the 21st of November, truly marking the end of an era of shoguns and shogunate supremacy in Japanese society. And on the subject of the deceased in monarchy, in 1916, the Emperor of Austria Hungary, as it was known back then, died, and this would be Emperor Franz Joseph, the man who was the Emperor of Austria Hungary during the First World War. And as history would have it, he would also be the second last emperor of Austria Hungary, and he would pass away, unfortunately, on this day in 1916. His death is mourned by all those who remember the days of Austria Hungary and believe it to be the golden period of Austrian history. And on that note, we conclude today's headlines of the day. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi. Stay tuned for our other series, The Defense Review and Crossroads. And also, please subscribe to Historian Radio for more interesting historical updates. Good night.